Game balance. You know it, you love it, you don't know it. You're saying game balance is actually an incredibly vague term that means a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people, even if they're all playing the same game, within the same party. Damn, man, that's crazy. I guess we gotta clear that up. Let's start by agreeing on some terms and definitions here. Most of the time, when people refer to game balance in terms of tabletop RPGs, they mean a sense of fairness, which is also vague. Great, cool. It's okay, we'll figure this out. When players and game masters alike talk about the sense of fairness, they generally mean the game is designed in such a way to be fun for a specific type of player and game master. And yes, I know that fun is also subjective, but I'm not going to try and define that. You're on your own. Well, balance means there's two sides, and they should even out. A well-balanced game is a game whose mechanics are designed in such a way to give a sense of fairness, which means it's difficult in a way that's fun for both you and your players. Difficulty is actually kind of the key here, because if it's too easy, it ends up repetitive and boring. But if it's too hard, it could be frustrating. Unless you're the Tarnished. Now, this isn't strictly a measure of power either. You can run a game where everyone's a full-fledged god with all the cool godliness that entails, as long as there's still challenges and it's fun. Yes, Game Master fun is part of the equation. It's not just players. Things like resource use, experience points, and elements of chance can keep you in that sweet spot. Each game will also require its own sense of balance based on what it was actually designed for. Solo and two-player RPGs tend to be a little on the easier side of this, because when you limit the number of variables, it gets to be a lot easier to balance. By contrast, the more players that you have, the more variables and different kinds of powers and abilities they might have, and things get to be a lot more difficult to keep track of. Now, of course, this isn't a hard and fast rule. Some solo games cast you in the role of an omniscient god, and other times you might have a 4-player plus game that's more silly than threatening. So given this very kind of loosey-goosey definition of game balance, what does ideal game balance look like? Now, a lot of people have complaints about game balance in a lot of RPGs. Anything from Dungeons & Dragons, Draw Steel, Shadowrun, because there's only so much a game designer can do when they're not the one running the game. Now, they do design their games with player success in mind, with some exceptions, but as the game master at your table, you want to try to balance these encounters in such a way where your players have a 70-30 success ratio. It might feel counterintuitive, but when we really break down the numbers, let's look at what a 50-50 success does. Now, we're going to go from the assumption that a total party kill is bad. So if we have, let's say, 4 party members with a 50-50 chance of success on a save or die roll, just to vastly oversimplify things for the point of illustration. That gives us about a 6% chance that you have a total party kill. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but if your doctor told you your surgery had a 6% fatality rate, you'd think about it at least a little bit. And this is per encounter, this is cumulative. Now, some of these numbers are easy to adjust. By setting a higher target number or calling for more rolls, you're going to numerically make things more difficult for the player characters. But sometimes you might want to instead include a puzzle, a riddle, or a social interaction. This is a tricky line to walk, but often what's actually more important than numbers in making a game feel balanced is your players and their characters. If, for example, the charismatic talker with limited combat abilities has spent the last 3 sessions in combat after combat after combat, they're going to feel underpowered, at a disadvantage, and like the game isn't balanced. Now, the numbers themselves may be alright, and all the other players are having a rip-roaring time, but no one likes being repeatedly put into situations where they feel like they're set up to fail. The same goes for the heavy hitter types in the social situations. Sometimes it is fun being the barbarian in the pretty princess dress trying not to pop a scene, but not every session. This is where a lot of people will talk about the spotlight, but let me light it a different way. It's not just the spotlight, it is narrative balance. It's definitely a little bit more art than science, but it will help make your games more memorable. Focusing in on one character while they do what they're best at is cool not just for them, but also for the entire table. Let the sociopathic character negotiate their way out of prison. Zoom in on the paladin smiting the lich. Now, in certain situations, that might mean a character who can wipe the floor with every bad guy, a smooth talker who can talk the paint right off a wall, or a hacker who can crack into any internet-connected system as long as they have a Wi-Fi-enabled toaster, could be a balanced party. Now, in a game with a lot of combat, that might be unbalanced in favor of the fighter, but if this is a cyberpunk setting, then maybe the hacker can handle the entire adventure himself in the back of the van, leaving everyone else twiddling their thumbs. The goal of balance as a game master isn't just to make combat hard or to take away the hacker's toaster, it's to give everyone a moment where they can truly shine. A balanced mission might be one where the talker pulls off an elaborate con to get everyone into a corporate black site. The bruiser holds off single-handedly a whole wave of corpo thugs, while the hacker rewrites the corporate debt ledger. Just make sure you listen to your players' feedback, and you might find they're willing to occasionally overlook some frustrations in exchange for glory. Another thing to watch out for that can't be measured by statistics alone is GM and player skill in the game. A game master who's really good at tactical combat can take a simple encounter and turn it into a massacre if the players are newbies who don't know how to use their abilities very well. Hell, even the most experienced players can be taken down by a particularly skilled game master. The example of Tucker's Kobolds, where a game master used the standard kobold for the monster manual, but giving them Viet Cong level tactics could turn them into a dangerous encounter for even high level characters. Now, this also works in both directions. More than one GM has planned a tense, close, dramatic encounter only to have it turn into a cakewalk by one tactically minded player. Now, the key difference here, though, is that it is the game master's responsibility to maintain the desired level of balance for a game. If combat is going poorly for your players, you can have the bad guys make stupid mistakes, fudge some die rolls, and maybe drop a few hit points. Players are very unlikely to run, but you could have the monsters get summoned away by something bigger, or have an NPC cover their exit. And by the same token, if your players are doing too well, you can shake things up. Add reinforcements, hidden abilities, or just outright changing the battlefield. The creature they're fighting could try to flee, adapt, or change tactics. Remember, even animals aren't going to bash their head directly against the stone wall. That being said, be sure to keep an eye out for players who are overexploiting mechanics in their favor. As everyone's favorite gaming uncle Matt Colville once said, players will optimize the fun out of a game. How do you ask? Well, by mucking around with the balance. The third edition of Dungeons & Dragons was notorious for this. There were so many spells and items and prestige classes and things, you could enchant or multi-class your way into making the game monotonously easy. Why use lockpicks or even a rogue when you have a wand of knock? Why have the bard flirt with the guard when they can just cast charm? Why play a man when you could be a sentient bear with a butler? Now knock is an incredibly loud spell, and characters know when they've been charmed after the fact. Still no word for any solution on Lord Barrington. You may have also heard the term broken mechanics. When a character, ability, or challenge passes beyond the realm of optimization into the unbeatable, we call that broken. Optimized mechanics might be annoying, but they are absolutely within the realm of the game. A player building their character to maximize critical hit range and damage output is optimizing the character. They're not broken. No matter what, there's still the chance that the character just won't hit. The bad guy has resistance to their type of damage, or other levers you can pull. But a truly broken mechanic renders the game almost unplayable for both players and the game master. Now, I came up in 3rd edition D&D, and I've certainly seen my fair share of this, from infinite damage loops to combinations that render any opponent's armors useless, even a variant on the Cancer Mage that gives you unlimited health. The thing is, the more mechanics a game has, the more likely it is to create some of these infinite loops. This is because as a developer, there's a certain point where you can no longer consider every possible option. Though not actually a tabletop RPG, Magic the Gathering is a prime example of this. In tournament play, you're only allowed to use the last 3 releases of cards. Anything beyond that, and there's just too many options to consider. Now, of course, players might complain that you won't let them use their build or you're house ruling things to work a little bit differently, but it is absolutely vital in order to keep the game playable and fun for everyone. And this goes right back at you too as the game master. Dropping an Ancient Red Dragon in front of a party of level 1 characters isn't a challenge, it's just broken. Well, I think that's just about all the time we have today. If you have any questions, comments, or something you'd like us to talk about, you can drop us a comment below, shoot us an email at biscuitwolfgames@gmail.com, or you can find us on Blue Sky at biscuitwolfgames. You can also find our own games and supplements at biscuitwolfgames.itch.io or at the TTRPG under the Biscuit Wolf banner. We'll see you next time.